Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Carter Jones. We back with another vid. Yo, I got mad videos, yo, that I'm about to be doing, yo. I'm pretty much sure it could be trillions of people on YouTube. Feel me? Like, if I'm interested, it's gonna be somebody interested in these junks, yo. It's not just me, bro. And I just like having to run across all these junks, man. I know if it's interesting to me, it's gonna be interesting to somebody. So I'm about to start doing what I want to react to, really, man. Not what I think everybody might be interested in. I'm gonna react to what I watch, man. So here we go. It's 25 items from the 70's. They saying you broke if you were. They just stopped if you were, though.
Remember those grocery items?
I'm pretty much sure they saying if you were broke. 25 items you bought from the grocery store if you was broke.
No frills staples you bought because there was no other choice. In the 1970s America, these foods filled pantries, stretched paychecks, and fed families through some of the hardest times. What do we lose when survival becomes something we're too proud to remember?
So are they saying if we remember any of these, we was poor? I wasn't poor because I ain't grew up in no projects, man. They can't say you was poor if you grew up in a big ass house, bro. I'm sorry, they can't say that. We wasn't nowhere near rich. We wasn't rich, but we was good. I wasn't poor.
Government cheese was not just food. It was survival. It came in a giant, nondescript cardboard box, stamped like it was military surplus.
See, but the thing is, but it say 70's. You got, ain't no 70's, baby. We're up in the 90's, so I wouldn't know. That's what I'm about to say, because I'm about to say, I don't remember no big ass long block of cheese. But we're going to watch it anyway. Somebody from the 70's going to watch it.
Inside was a solid orange brick that could survive a nuclear blast.
Damn.
You could slice it, melt it, fry it, and it would still taste like school lunch and desperation.
Damn.
It never quite melted right. It stuck to pans, clumped in sandwiches, and turned casseroles into rubber.
Oh my
But when you had nothing else, it was gold. It made grilled cheese, it made macaroni edible, and it lasted forever in the fridge.
Damn.
Every poor kid in the 1970s remembers peeling back that thin paper and trying to cut a straight slice. You never got it right. It was always crooked, but that cheese kept you full, and that mattered more than anything.
Facts.
This was not grocery store cheese. This was a government-issued food safety net. It was part of a national aid program, and for many families, it was the difference between dinner and no dinner. It showed up uninvited, unbranded, and unforgettable. And when it was gone, you missed it, even if you pretended not to. These days, people pay top dollar for vintage processed cheese. Back then, it came free. And you still felt the cost.
Wait, hold up. You just say right now they pay top dollar for vintage processed cheese? And back then it was free? And people wanted something different when they was getting the free stuff that people want to pay top dollar for now? I don't get it.
Powdered milk was never a treat. It was a chore.
Oh yeah, this was way
you
before
mixed it in a plastic pitcher, hoping the lump would disappear.
Never seen them damn powdered milk.
They never did. It smelled like chalk and tasted like a dare. If you drank it warm, forget it. That was a punishment, not a beverage. But it got poured into cereal, added to mashed potatoes, and stirred into baking mixes like it belonged, because it had to. Milk was expensive. Powdered milk came in giant paper envelopes and lasted forever. Not because you loved it, but because it was always there.
So what they make them with
Stir
water?
it with a spoon until your wrist hurt. Then you stirred it more. Your mom would say, "Let it sit, it tastes better cold." And somehow, she was right, kind of. It was used to stretch the real milk when you were lucky enough to have some. Half and half was not a fancy coffee blend. It was how you survived a dry week. Powdered milk showed up in food pantry boxes, in school kitchens, in battered community centers.
Damn.
It was dependable, it was disliked, and it was necessary.
Man. Hey, I would have had you drink it though, I would have.
But if you were poor in the 1970s, you drank it straight, and you learned to stop complaining. Canned Spam was the meat that needed no fridge, and barely needed a reason. You popped the lid with a key or your finger and slid out a jelly-covered block of mystery. You sliced it thin, fried it hard, and drowned it in mustard. It was salty, greasy, and so processed it almost squeaked. But it was meat. It filled sandwiches. It topped rice. It bulked up macaroni. You flipped it like pancakes on a hot skillet and called it dinner.
I was like a picky eater growing up, right? So I'm not saying like I'm being bougie. I'm just saying even if I was raised in that era, that's just one thing I wouldn't have ate. You feel me? It would have been other things. They about to show us 24 more things it would have been for me to eat besides that. I wouldn't have ate that, bro. Maybe fried, if I would have looked at it fried, but from like that look out the can, looked crazy, bro.
Some people said it was gross. Others called it a lifesaver.
Gross.
You
If I
probably
was a
called it
lifesaver.
fine. It was not your favorite, but it was there when you were hungry. Spam came in food boxes, sat on sale shelves, and stayed in pantries for months.
They got cherry.
It was shelf stable and it worked. That was the whole point. You were not buying sirloin. You were feeding 4 people with 1 can. It showed up at family breakfasts and potluck casseroles. Some people hated it. Others made it a tradition. But if you were broke in the 1970s, Spam was meat. And that was enough.
Facts.
Off-brand cereal in a bag was not cool.
That shit's
But it was
still
affordable.
around now.
No cartoon mascots.
Now, we not gonna cap, right? Like some, cause it's today. I don't eat cereal. All that, not good for you. I'm gonna keep it real with you. None of it. The real one, whatever you want to call it, real, whatever you want to call it, the bag ones, it ain't good for you, right? However, everybody when they was a kid, they liked the cereal, feel me? But we not gonna cap, like some bags wasn't better than, cause there was a time when I did eat cereal, feel me? Wasn't always enlightened like I am now. And I had the option to buy the box or the bag, and I looked, and some brands were better in the bag. I'm not gonna lie about that, bro. I'm not gonna lie about that, bro.
No box, no toy surprise.
But like they got the brand names in the bag though now, so I don't know. Like back then, it was like an off-brand name, a little weird name that like was a replica of the box that had the real like Frosted Flakes, and they have something flakes on the bags and weird shit.
A plastic sack of crunchy shapes that looked almost, but not quite, like the name brand. Fruity Circles instead of Fruit Loops, Corn Crunch instead of Corn Pops, Marshmallow Magic instead of Lucky Charms. And every flavor was a little off. You poured it into a bowl with powdered milk and called it breakfast. It got soggy fast. It stuck to your teeth. But you still ate 2 bowls and called it a good morning. Moms bought it because it lasted a week and cost less than a movie ticket. You ate it because it was sweet, kind of. It came in huge bags that barely fit in the pantry. You clipped it shut with a clothespin and prayed for freshness. The marshmallows crumbled, the flakes broke, but it fed the whole house and nobody dared waste it. In the 1970s, off-brand cereal was not
Tricks.
It was smart.
Boy.
And if you were lucky, it even came in chocolate. Day-old bread was a hidden treasure hunt, if you knew where to look. Your mom had a favorite shop. It was not a bakery. It was the day-old bread store. Shelves of discount.
Oh, never did they have the day-old bread store. Like everything in that joint was a day-old. Is crazy. Like nothing in there was fresh. But they do say, like if you put the bread in the freezer, it won't. Like if you're not eating it, you know, if you eat bread in your house slow, like we barely eat bread in here at all. Keep it real. So if I do happen to get a loaf, I put it in the freezer. As soon as I bring it in from the grocery store, I put it in the freezer. But if I know we be eating it, I'll leave it out. But like the last loaf I bought, I don't even know. I put it in the freezer as soon as I got here. We still haven't touched a slice of it. Because if we make hamburgers, they use hamburger buns. If you want a hot dog, I put them on a hot dog bun. Like so. But I do like peanut butter and strawberry jam. I love those. I ain't gonna back. Even though I haven't ate one in super long, but I do like them.
The loaves, bent buns, and broken bagels lined up like misfit toys. You grabbed what you could. White bread, wheat bread, hamburger rolls with one smashed side. You had to check for mold, sure, but you also found surprises. Honey wheat, raisin swirl, hot dog buns in winter. The smell was amazing. The prices were even better. You could get 5 loaves for the cost of 1. At home, you froze most of it, ate the rest fast, toasted it, buttered it, grilled it. If it was dry, you made it into stuffing. If it was too far gone, it became breadcrumbs. Nothing was wasted. The bread store was not fancy, but it kept your lunchbox full. And in the 1970s, full was all that mattered. Boxed macaroni and cheese was not just dinner. It was a budget strategy.
I still don't eat
The box
macaroni and
cost
cheese.
less
I
than
don't eat
$1
cheese.
and could feed an entire family if you got creative. Elbow noodles, a packet of neon orange powder, and a splash of milk. You had it. If not, water worked. Maybe some margarine, maybe not.
Some margarine.
Until it turned
You said
into
margarine.
thick, hot, and just cheesy enough. It was not gourmet, but it was fast, filling, and guaranteed nobody would complain. Much. Sometimes you added chopped hot dogs or canned tuna.
Ah,
Other times it was
negative.
just
I
mac and
ain't
cheese
never
with
seen
flavor.
nobody do that shit.
The box said,
No,
serves
mac and
4,
cheese.
but you could stretch it to 6 if you were desperate. It was not about flavor. It was about making sure everyone got a scoop. The powder never fully dissolved. The noodles always clumped. But it hit the spot in a way that made you feel like you were getting away with something. There were no gourmet breadcrumbs, no truffle oil, just a pot, a box, and a wooden spoon. If you were lucky, you got the store brand. 10 cents cheaper and twice as clumpy. You made it after school. You made it at midnight. You made it when payday was still too far away. In the 1970s, boxed mac and cheese was not a side dish. It was the whole meal. And somehow, it always did the job. Canned Vienna sausages were soft, salty, and kind of weird.
Never ever ate that right there, bro. I'm not eating those, bro. First of all, astaghfirullah right now on that last word. And then I'm not even eating that mixed with that and that either, though. Like, it's either gonna be chicken or beef. And nah. Yeah, the sausages, that junk had 3 different, what's the names? Whopping servings of sheesh from a chicken, a cat, and a pig. Just mashed together.
But they worked. You popped the lid and pulled out a row of pale, jelly-covered...
I do remember having those in the house, though, bro. My grandma used to eat them, I
They
think.
smelled like a meat factory and looked like baby food for adults. But you ate them cold with crackers or fried them in a pan and called it breakfast.
Never.
They were cheap, portable, and weirdly satisfying. Each sausage was the size of your finger and had the consistency of room temperature butter. You could not slice them without squishing them, but you did anyway, because they were meat, and meat was meat, especially when money was tight. You found them in discount stores, food pantries, and packed in your lunchbox when there was nothing else. They did not require refrigeration, which made them a pantry MVP. And no matter how questionable they
Pantry
looked, you were always
MVP is
glad they were
wild.
there. They came in pop-top cans with paper labels that peeled off in the heat. And no matter how many times you gagged at the first bite, you always finished the can. They lasted forever in the cupboard. They showed up during hurricanes, blackout dinners, and those long weeks before payday. Canned Vienna sausages were not loved, but they were there. And when you had nothing else, that was enough. Frozen TV dinners were not just a treat, they were a plan.
I eat one of them now, boy. What? Well, nah, smash a hungry man. Stop playing with your boy, man. I was a TV dinner king, you hear me? Word up, especially growing up, bro. It's like, I ain't cooking today. What you want? I'm like, you give me a TV dinner, man. Like, word up. It's something in the freezer. Like, okay. Word up, bro. You had a snack. You had your veggies. I love corn. If my junk had the rest of them in there, I'll pick it out. And whatever little bit of corn I had with it, I just eat that. I didn't eat no, but I eat them now. That's the crazy part. I didn't even taste it back then. She wouldn't make me eat it if I didn't want to. That's the thing. She would not force me to eat nothing I didn't want to. But you had, like I said, you had your veggie, you had a snack, And you had some chicken. Stop it. Come on, beloved. And now you could get them junks with the chicken, the mashed potatoes, the corn, and the brownie snack. Stop playing with me.
You opened that silver tray and saw whole meals, meat, starch, vegetables, and something pretending to be dessert.
Boom, yeah.
It all cooked at once, in the oven.
He said something pretending to be dessert.
While you sat cross-legged on the carpet staring at your favorite show. Salisbury steak, mashed potatoes, corn, and a brownie infused in the corner of the tray. It was hot lava on the outside and frozen in the middle. You stirred and waited and stirred again. But when it was finally ready, it felt like restaurant night. And you were the guest. Some came in boxes with wild colors and fake chefs smiling on the front. Others were just plain, store brand, cheaper, always a little freezer burned. It did not matter. They were the rare dinner you did not have to share or serve. Your own personal tray of grown-up food. It made you feel fancy, even when you were sitting in pajamas on the shag carpet. You got to eat in front of the television. That was the real treat. In a time when family dinners were the rule, TV dinners were the exception. A little box of quiet, solo satisfaction. And when money was tight, they were a way to
family dinners was not no rule. Get your plate and go where you want to go.
Generic peanut butter was a gamble, but you took it. It came in a tan jar with a white label that said peanut butter and nothing else. No cartoon bears, no crunchy option. Just oil on top, cement on the bottom, and a knife stuck somewhere in between. You stirred until your hand ached. You scraped and scooped. You tasted it and blinked twice. It was bitter. It was bland. But it was peanut butter, and peanut butter meant sandwiches. You smeared it on stale bread.
I don't know. I just know we had peanut butter. I don't think I paid too close attention to that. To tell the truth. That shit all look the same. I don't think I want no crunchy peanut butter.
Sometimes just sugar. Sometimes nothing. It stuck to the roof of your mouth and stayed there. But it kept you full until dinner. It did not spread well, and it never looked appetizing. But it filled a sandwich with calories, and that was the only thing that mattered. It was cheaper than the name brand and lasted longer too, mostly because no one was sneaking spoonfuls when mom was not looking. You brought it to school in a paper bag and traded it if you were lucky. But even if nobody wanted it, you still ate every bite, because it was food. And in the 1970s, that was enough. Kool-Aid packets were magic if you had sugar. For 5 cents, you got a tiny envelope of dust and dreams. Cherry, grape, orange, lemonade. It did not matter. You dumped it in a pitcher, added water, and stirred with a giant spoon. Then came the sugar. A full cup, maybe 2. Or, if money was tight, half a cup and a prayer. The weaker it was, the more it burned going down. But it was still cold, still bright, still yours. You drank it from jelly jars, poured it into ice cube trays, called it punch, and served it at birthday parties. It stained your clothes, your lips, your countertop, and you still loved it. It was summer in a plastic pitcher, and it lasted for days. You could stretch one packet across a whole week, especially if nobody noticed it got thinner by the glass. And when you had friends over, it felt like serving a special drink, even if it was mostly tinted water. Kool-Aid was never fancy, but in a kitchen without soda or juice, it felt like a treat. And in a house on a budget, a 5-cent flavor went a long way. Frozen fish sticks were not fancy.
Now talk that talk. I used to be smashing these, boy. These wasn't just 70's right here, man. You a 90s, you raised in the 90s, man. You ate fish sticks, man. I had some tartar sauce, some hot sauce. Stop playing, man. Come on, y'all ain't about to tell me y'all ain't smashed down on no fish sticks. And I'm talking about the bag used to be. You used to eat mad at them junks, boy. You used to eat mad at them junks, see? I'll go in there and grab me like 25, make me like 25 fish sticks. Everything I love. Grab me like 25 fish sticks. And go crazy.
their job. They came in a blue box stacked like lumber, each one coated in a pale orange breading that barely stayed on. You lined them up on a baking sheet, flipped them once, and hoped for golden. But even if they came out mushy or burned, nobody complained. It was fish, it was hot, and it was dinner. The inside was mystery meat from the sea, white, flaky, and barely seasoned. But with ketchup or tartar sauce, perfectly acceptable. Sometimes you got lucky and they actually crisped up. Other times they fused to the pan and had to be pried off with a spatula. You dipped them in ranch, hot sauce, or whatever condiment was closest. You ate them with fingers, forks, or just a folded piece of bread. Leftovers never happened. They were always gone. Even cold, they were. And when payday was still a week away, they felt like a small win. You ate them with instant mashed potatoes and canned peas, and it felt like a real meal, especially if you were not paying attention to taste. Moms loved them because they were cheap, frozen, and lasted months. Kids loved them because they looked like nuggets. You dipped, crunched, and finished the whole plate before even asking what kind of fish it was.
Let me get some.
Nobody knew. It did not matter. In a home where real fillets were too expensive,
like fish sticks, man.
Fish sticks gave you a seat at the table.
You want to eat some fish sticks one day?
Canned ravioli or spaghetti was childhood comfort.
No, I wasn't talking about that shit. You can't eat that anyway. It's
Chef
pork and that
Boyardee
shit.
was not just a man. He was a lifeline.
The beefaroni ones, yeah.
Microwave safe bowl.
Beefaroni. Matter of fact, I bought a little 4-pack of them beefaronis. We got 4 cans of beefaroni in here right now.
Suspicious.
What you mean?
But you did not care.
But you gotta add, so you don't know. You gotta get the ground beef and add it to the can. You can't eat how it comes. There don't be enough meat in there.
You
Get
had
the
bread to
ground
wipe
beef,
the bowl.
get a little
If you were
1
not,
pack ounce,
you just licked
just
it
to
clean.
cook.
It was warm.
And
It
you
was
add
filling.
it to the beef.
And it made you feel
And it
like
really,
dinner was
really,
handled, even when the cupboards were bare.
you cook the ground beef like you was about to make taco. You make the taco meat ground beef. Add it in there with that seasoning ground beef. Oh man. When Danny said from Full House, have mercy on everything, boy. But nah, not the other stuff though. Nah. I never liked the raviolis. Them junks look nasty, man. And like I said, the stuff I say nasty, I never even tasted before. And I wasn't Muslim back when I was a kid, but I didn't eat the spaghetti ones neither though. I didn't eat it. It didn't look appetizing to me. I don't even think she ever bought that. Like I said, I wasn't raised in the 70s. I wasn't even born yet. So I guess it's different when you're raised in the 90s. Making a lot more money than you make in the 70s.
You could eat it out of the pot, the can, or a chipped bowl with a cracked spoon. It made school lunch jealous. It made cold days feel manageable. And when it was the only thing in the cabinet, it was a blessing. The can hissed when you opened it. And that sound meant dinner was happening. It was not nutrition. It was not fancy. But it was food. And when you were on food stamps, this was a pantry staple. 2 cans for $1 meant you could feed all the kids and still have enough for lunch the next day. Chef Boyardee was not about flavor. He was about filling the gap, and he did it well.
That's why I said,
Store brand white bread was cheap, soft, and barely held together. But it was the
depending
glue of
on
your
the year you were
grocery
born,
list. It came in a thin plastic bag that ripped if you looked.
depending on what year you were born and what part of the year you were born, makes it what's your name, baby? Like if you were born 86 and behind, then you a 90s baby. Because you don't remember nothing from the 80s. You was born in the late 80s. And by the time you was 4, turning 5, it was the 90s already. And you don't remember nothing before you was 4 anyway. You feel me? That's why I said if you want like 80, 81, 82, then you more still the 80s baby. Because like by the time you 5, it's still the late 80s, and you remembering stuff now, and you doing things from the 80s. Like you was born in like 76 and later, then you like an 80s baby because you were raised in the 80s. You were raised doing things in the 80s. You were born in 76, you was 1 in 77. Feel me? 78, 79, you didn't do nothing. You were still a baby. You weren't even in school yet. You started kindergarten at 5. And it's the 80s by then if you were going to 76. Feel me? Now you starting to remember stuff. Feel me? You remember little things from kindergarten. Excuse me. So that's what I said.
Got it wrong. No fancy branding, no whole grain promises. Just 50 slices of pure fluff that got you through the week. It squished into nothing if you pressed too hard. It tore when you spread peanut butter, and it stuck to the roof of your mouth like paste. But it made sandwiches, toast, French toast, and breadcrumbs. And that was enough. You rolled it into balls and ate it plain when you were desperate. You made grilled cheese, tuna melts, and bologna stacks with it. It barely held up, but it stretched every meal just a little further. It was soft enough to feel like a treat, even if it had no flavor. Some loaves were more air than dough, but air was still food when you needed to fill the table. And when it went stale, you made bread pudding, croutons, or just fed it to the birds and called it charity. You bought it because it cost half as much as the name brand, sometimes even less when it was marked down. At school, it looked different. At home, it was normal. You toasted it to give it some structure, or let it go stale and turned it into stuffing. Nobody bragged about eating it, but nobody wasted it either. In a decade where every dollar mattered, this was the bread you lived on. White, plain, and dependable. Instant mashed potatoes were a miracle, even if they tasted like wall paste. You just add water, maybe a little margarine, and stir until the flakes turned to fluff. It was science. It was sorcery. And it fed the family in 5 minutes flat. They came in a box or pouch, and nobody followed the directions exactly. You made it stretch. You watered it down. You added salt until it tasted like something. And then you served it with pride. There were lumps. There was powder. Sometimes there was that weird top layer that formed when they cooled too fast. But they were still potatoes. You could mix in canned corn or leftover gravy to make it look intentional. Kids groaned but still ate them. Parents sighed but still served them. Because nothing beat a hot pile of fake potatoes on a cold night. Real potatoes took time. These did not. They sat on the shelf for months, ready to become a side dish at a moment's notice. You piled gravy on top if you had it, butter if you were lucky, ketchup if you were desperate. In poor households, instant potatoes were not a shortcut. They were the main event. They looked like food. They filled you like food. And they cost less than a sack of real potatoes. Tuna in oil was a pantry hero. Oily, fishy, and 100% budget approved. Back then, tuna packed in water was considered fancy. Oil packed was the standard, and it smelled like it could clear a room. But you opened the can anyway, drained what you could.
Yeah, we ain't gonna play like when you eat tuna fish, but I didn't eat the tuna fish in the oil. That's nasty. You get the one in the water, bro. That oil is not tuna. That's horrible.
And got to work. Tuna salad, tuna noodle casserole, tuna melts, tuna surprise. It was cheap protein that came in waves, literally. You mixed it with too much mayo or too little. Either way, it ended up between 2 slices of bread or in a cold pasta dish with peas. And you ate it like it was normal. Because it was. The oil left slick fingerprints on everything. Your hands, your counters, even the cat if you were not careful. It made the bread soggy and the fridge smell for days. But it was dinner or lunch or breakfast on really rough mornings. You had tuna toast, tuna crackers, tuna everything. You survived on it because it was always there, in the back of the pantry, waiting. It kept for months, came in multi-packs, and went on sale regularly. The oil was messy. The can left a smell, but it gave you a full lunch and maybe leftovers too. In homes where meat was rare and fresh food cost too much, canned tuna was the closest you got to something healthy. And it always, always did the job. Hot dogs and bologna ends were bargain bin royalty. Meatish, cheap, and impossible to mess up. The regular stuff was expensive, but at the meat counter, if you asked nicely, they would give you the ends, the leftovers, the odd shapes, the pieces they could not sell at full price, and you took them gladly. hot dog chunks, bologna slabs, sometimes even
Bologna.
salami slices that looked like they'd been through a shredder. It all went into the pan. You fried it, grilled it, boiled it, or ate it cold on a slice of white bread. It was salty, weird, and delicious. Sometimes you got whole slices. Sometimes it was just nubs and trimmings.
What?
But it all tasted the same once it hit the skillet. You added onions if you had them, eggs if you were lucky. It was poverty charcuterie, and you made it work. Nobody cared if it looked strange. It was lunch, it was protein, and it cost next to nothing. Meat scraps were a secret weapon. You could stretch them for days, feed a whole crew, and still have something left to toss in tomorrow's eggs. In the 1970s, that was how you won the grocery game. Early store brand ramen noodles were not trendy. They were emergency food. They came in plain packages, no color, no fancy font, just blocky letters that said chicken flavor and a seasoning packet full of salt and greens. You boiled water, tossed in the brick, and waited for the noodles to soften. Sometimes you added an egg, sometimes hot dogs, sometimes nothing. The seasoning was always too strong, but that was the point. It masked the fact that you had no real ingredients. You could throw in leftovers, frozen peas, or whatever was dying in the fridge. It was survival soup in under 5 minutes. And somehow it was always comforting. It was 39 cents a pack and worth every penny. You could eat it from a pot, a bowl, or straight out of a mug. You slurped the broth and wiped your mouth on your sleeve. Nobody judged. You were full, and that was the point. Today, ramen is gourmet. Back then, it was survival. 1 packet could stretch dinner. 2 could feed a roommate. It was hot, salty, and comforting in a way few other things were. Ramen was not cool. It was crucial. Rice, especially minute rice, was the blank canvas of the broke.
Nah, I never heard of minute rice. But I heard of, like, 5-minute rice. It's all the same, I guess. See, taste the same. Ain't no difference, I don't think. Well, I remember having rice in a bag.
It cost next to nothing. It filled half your plate.
I'm telling you though, because rice is definitely free.
Minute rice cooked fast. Regular rice cooked slow. But either way, you were eating something hot, white, and vaguely fluffy. You added butter, or ketchup, or soy sauce, or gravy from last week's meatloaf. It did not matter.
Ketchup on rice
is how you made leftovers stretch.
Bro.
It turned a can of beans into a full dinner. It soaked up broth, carried canned tuna, and filled in every empty spot on the plate. You could fry it the next day with eggs and call it new. And there was always more in the bag. Rice turned 1 meal into 3. You made it with tuna, with beans, with canned chili. It was your side dish, your filler, your main course when the pantry was bare. There was always a bag in the cabinet, usually ripped and leaking grains all over the shelf. But that bag meant dinner, and you were not throwing that away.
Oh, everything.
Canned green beans were mushy, salty, and in every poor family's cabinet.
I ain't eat.
They came in big metal cans with green labels and metal lid.
I eat them now, but I didn't eat them then. They just didn't look appetizing to me, man. And like I said, my grandmother raised me. I was gonna call my grandmother Ma. My mama ain't used to make me eat nothing I ain't want to eat. She wasn't on it like that, so she used to like, yeah, you need them, man. You need to eat them, man. You need to. But it was vegetables I ate, so I ain't like I said, she ain't forced me to eat nothing. But anything I ever said I ain't want to eat, she always told me, like, try it, you gonna like it. And when I finally did try some things, I loved it. She was never wrong, you know. That's why I don't know why I didn't try the other stuff, but it was just still nasty to me. Like spinach to this day, I still haven't tasted. It don't look and stink, I'm still ain't eating it.
You opened with a crank. You dumped them in a pot, heated them up, and hoped for the best. Sometimes they were gray. Sometimes they were brown. Never green. But with salt, butter, and a lot of hope, they passed as vegetables. You ate them on holidays, on Tuesdays, with meatloaf, with macaroni, by themselves when there was nothing else. The juice in the can was a whole extra ingredient. Some moms saved it to flavor rice or soup. You mashed them with margarine to make them more palatable.
Margarine.
And sometimes you mixed them with cream of mushroom soup and called it a casserole. It was not gourmet, but it filled the plate. They were soggy and stringy, but they counted as healthy. And moms made sure they made the plate. Today, kids turn up their nose at canned veggies. But in the 1970s, green beans were part of survival. Canned fruit cocktail was
get a
dessert,
fresh out of
if
can.
you were lucky.
Either way, I eat
Came
them
in
now.
syrup, floated like science experiments, and featured those weird translucent grapes nobody liked.
That was this.
But you ate them anyway.
Oh, nah.
Cherries.
I ate them. I forgot what them is he talking about, but I ate them Jones right there, out the can. I know what he talking about. I had them. Those wasn't just a 70's thing, man. Those was the 90's thing too. Them Jones be rocking. Boy, you go straight from the little strawberries in there, cherries, whatever they was.
Were the prize. You counted them before anyone else could. You spooned it into little bowls, usually chilled, and pretended it was fancy. It was not. But it was sweet. It was
just
cold.
hurt my little heart.
It was better
It
than
was
nothing.
not.
And when money was tight, better than nothing was the goal. The syrup alone felt indulgent. You drank it after the fruit was gone like it was juice.
Fact.
Some people froze it into popsicles. Others dumped it over boxed cake or plain Jell-O. It made everything else feel like dessert, too. Fruit cocktail was served on paper plates at potlucks,
fruit cocktail.
besides scoops of off-brand
Excuse me,
vanilla
I'm
ice
sorry.
cream, or straight from the can when nobody was looking. The pears were mush. The peaches were slimy.
See,
That
blueberry
red
over
cherry,
here.
that was gold. You fished for it, fought for it, and when you got it, you won the night. Jiffy Corn Muffin Mix was a blue box.
Now, I eat these. I go Muslim now. You know, you gotta get the vegetarian one because they do consist of pork. Feel me? Growing up though, she used to give me the blueberry box, boy, and then get the pan, the muffin pan, and put them in there and turn them to muffins and eat the whole box of blueberry ones. Boy, them joints used to be rocking. But I used to eat regular cornbread with the dinners and stuff she made. But she always asked me, like, you want blueberry? Because I'm about to make some regular. She always made a regular one. She asked me, like, you good with just this or you want to make you some blueberry ones? Some days I was like, I want some blueberry ones too. Like, yeah, I'm eating them for a snack after dinner. We're going to eat the cornbread with the meal. But after that, I'm about to have my blueberry muffins. You hear me?
Full of magic and the cheapest comfort food you could make.
Yeah.
It sat quietly on the lowest shelf, right next to the cake mixes you could not afford. But that little blue and white box cost pennies and promised something warm, golden, and just sweet.
No pennies in
You added an egg, some milk, or
bad.
water if you were really scraping by, and stirred until the lumps disappeared. Then you poured it into a battered muffin tin or a square baking dish and hoped the oven worked right. It smelled better than anything that cheap had a right to. Fluffy on top, crunchy on the edges, and always gone by the time dinner ended. You served it with beans, with chili, with butter, and a little sugar for dessert. It did not matter. That mix was the backbone of a lot of meals. You only needed one box, maybe two for a big family. It took 20 minutes to make and barely made a mess. And it made the house feel warmer, fuller, like something special was happening, even if dinner was canned spaghetti. Some weeks, it was the only baked good you had. Cornbread made you feel like things were okay, like there was still room for tradition, even on food stamps. In the 1970s, Jiffy Corn Muffin Mix was not just a shortcut. It was a staple, a blue box of hope. Dry pinto beans by the pound.
Oh, I said, is it right?
Were not just was the only baked good you had. Cornbread made you feel like things were okay. Like,
Oh man, I'm about to fix it.
sacks or paper bags with a twist tie at the top, marked with a handwritten price tag. You poured them into a bowl and picked through for rocks.
I ain't eat them.
Soaked them for
I ain't
hours.
eat no beans except for the
Sometimes
stuff with the beans
When
and
they
franks.
finally hit the pot, They simmered all day, filling the house with steam and the slow, steady smell of something hearty and real. You added salt if you had it, ham bone if you were lucky, or just onion and hope. The texture was soft, the taste was earthy, and the end result could stretch over 3 days if you portioned it right. Beans and cornbread, beans and rice, beans and nothing. You were fed. That was the point. Kids rolled their eyes but still cleaned their plates. Adults called it a humble meal, but they were proud of it because it meant no one was going to bed hungry. A pot of pintos fed the block, the church basement, and every poor family trying to stay afloat. In the 1970s, when meat was expensive and groceries were tight, dry beans were not just cheap, they were dependable. You learned how to season them, how to save them, how to live off them. And if you were smart, you made enough to freeze for next week. Because beans did not go out of style, they went back on the stove. Margarine in a tub was butter's loud
Margarine is so funny
and
to
it
me.
lived in every poor family's fridge. Bright yellow plastic, peel back foil. A
Yeah,
smell
we
that
had
was
both. We
kind
had
of
butter
buttery,
and anything
kind
of
of weird,
margarine.
always there.
Margarine.
You scooped it with a butter knife and spread it on toast that fell apart mid-swipe. Or you plopped it into mashed potatoes, macaroni, skillet cornbread, or anything that
Yeah,
needed
love.
flavor.
It felt like butter. I thought it
Real
was always
butter
the
was
same, so I used either
Margarine
one.
was
Whichever one I
surprising.
seen first, if I needed
Sometimes
some
it was
butter.
flavored with butter-like oils. Sometimes it was just yellow fat. But it worked, and it lasted forever. That tub was bottomless, or at least it felt that way. You reused the empty containers for everything. Leftovers,
Facts.
soup, Kool-Aid, lunch salad, even catching grease. Your mom had a whole drawer of old margarine tubs with mismatched lids. It was like Tupperware,
Facts.
only free.
She
The
definitely
brand
kept
did
those.
not matter. Imperial.
Facts. Facts.
Generic store brand with spread, written in capital letters. You ate it without question, because it went with everything and cost a fraction of the real thing. Pancakes, corn on the cob, baked potatoes, all slathered in margarine like they came from a diner. And it made you feel rich for a minute, or at least full. In the 1970s, margarine was not a substitute.
Margarine.
It was a solution. You did not argue with it. You just used it. Every meal, every
Margarine.
day.
Keep saying margarine.
Bulk oatmeal in cardboard canisters
Yeah.
for breakfast.
Now, I swear to you, this is the oatmeal we call old-fashioned oatmeal. That takes a long time on the stove, and this is the best oatmeal, bro. This is the best oatmeal to this day. This is the best oatmeal. This the oatmeal this the real oatmeal. Not that processed junk that come in a little box with them little packets. This is the best oatmeal right here, yo.
Just on repeat. Cheap, hot, and exactly what you needed to start another long day. The canister was tall, round, and always a little dusty. You popped off the lid, scooped out a cup, and got to work. Water if you were poor. Milk if you were blessed. A little salt in the pot, a slow simmer,
Sugar.
and a wooden spoon that
Hella
never
sugar,
stopped stirring. It clumped, it bubbled, it stuck to the sides. But when it was done, it filled your stomach and kept you moving. You ate it plain, with a spoonful of brown sugar, with sliced bananas when they were on sale, with cinnamon, with margarine. Whatever you had, it went into the pot. You got creative, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Oatmeal was not exciting,
Man, that's it
but it
was.
was dependable, affordable, and warming. And that made it perfect. Sometimes it was dinner too, served in chipped bowls with toast on the side. The canister sat on top of the fridge, outlasting everything else in the kitchen. No expiration date, just silent strength. You knew you were poor when oatmeal was on the table 5 days in a row, but you also knew it kept you full when cereal ran out, and that counted for something. In the 1970s, bulk oatmeal was not fancy or fun, but it was yours, and it was enough.
In the 90s, that junk.
Canned evaporated milk was a shortcut, a substitute, and sometimes a last resort. It sat on the pantry shelf next to the powdered milk and somehow felt just a little more special, even if it came in a dented can with a missing label. Thick, pale, and slightly sweet.
Some things
Poured out
you only
slowly
cook
like
with
it was
evaporated
unsure of
milk,
itself.
though.
But it worked. It went into coffee, mashed potatoes, baked goods, and gravy. You could mix it with water and pretend it was regular milk, and sometimes it almost passed. You shook the can before opening, added a little sugar when no one was looking, and prayed it would not curdle when it hit the pan. But when you got it right, it made everything creamier, richer, better. Evaporated milk was the secret to homemade macaroni and cheese, to fancy scrambled eggs, and to the best banana pudding your grandma ever made. You did not drink it straight. You respected the rules, but you relied on it more than you admitted. One can could stretch into 2 meals if you played it smart, and it never went bad, which meant it was there, always, when the fridge was empty. In homes where money was tight, evaporated milk was more than a backup. It was part of the plan, shelf-stable, affordable, and quietly essential. Just like everything else on that pantry shelf. Farrell's was not quiet. In fact, it was deliberately loud. Sirens, drums, shouting waiters announcing someone's birthday like they had just won the lottery. It was sensory overload in the most delightful way, and kids loved every second of it. If you ever had a party at Farrell's in the 1970s, congratulations, you peaked early. Walking into Farrell's ice cream parlor felt like entering a cartoon version of the turn-of-the-century soda shop. Striped vests, bow ties, old-timey music, and a menu filled with wild desserts that were taller than your little brother. It was chaos with sprinkles. This was the kind of place that turned Sundays into stadium events and made sugar feel like a celebration. And then there was the zoo, a ridiculous, absurd, absolutely brilliant monstrosity of a Sunday. Carried out by multiple employees running through the restaurant while banging a drum and screaming, "Zoo! Zoo! Zoo!" It was basically a declaration of war on restraint. And the kids? They were eating it up, literally and figuratively. But underneath all the whipped cream and pageantry was a place that really understood family fun. You were not just ordering dessert. You were making a memory. The chaos, the clatter, the calorie overload, it was part of the magic. You did not come to Farrell's for peace and quiet. You came for a food parade, a sugar rush, and a place where the adults sighed while the kids bounced in their seats. It was the ultimate yes place in a world full of no. The local train tracks were not on any map of attractions, but they might as well have been your Saturday headquarters. Dad would pull up to that familiar patch of gravel beside the crossing, engine off, thermos in hand. Steam curled from the lid as he poured black coffee like he was settling in for a movie. You sat on the hood, knees pulled up, eyes scanning the horizon. Then, clack, 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 the first rumbles came. A distant whistle echoed across the fields, and the train rolled in, all muscle and thunder. Dad would nod like he timed it himself, and the counting began. 1, 2, 3. Boxcar after boxcar, faded logos, rust streaks, some tagged with graffiti from cities you had never seen. Sometimes you brought a notebook, sometimes just your eyes, but you always left with the same question. Where were they all going? Dad would lean back against the car, sip his coffee, and tell you a story that may or may not have been true. It did not matter. What mattered was the rhythm, the waiting, the wonder. And if you were lucky, the next stop was just as legendary. A miniature golf course where no obstacle was regulation.
He was saying every riding the train for nothing.
Plymouth was never the flashiest name on the road, but it was trusted, reliable, American. It was the car your uncle fixed up in the driveway, the station wagon that took families to the Grand Canyon, the compact that young drivers learned to parallel park with. In the 1970s,
yeah, we ain't had no Plymouth, but wasn't my real grandfather. She had already divorced my real grandfather, but my grandmother, he was a mechanic though, real talk. And he raised me with it though. And he was a mechanic. So he kept man, my grandmother had like 3 little hoop rides, man, little G rides, man. If I see one, I'm gonna point it out though, on everything. But we ain't had one, the Plymouth, we probably had Plymouth, but not a station wagon. I gotta see what this system gonna look like.
Plymouth had already seen better days, but there was still hope. Then the market shifted. Gas prices spiked. Japanese imports hit harder and faster than anyone expected, and Plymouth's offerings started to feel outdated. Chrysler focused its attention elsewhere. Dodge got the performance, Chrysler got the luxury, and Plymouth got what was left. People still bought them, but it felt like settling.
They only come in
You were not proud to drive a Plymouth. You were just glad it still ran.
I'm telling you.
Sales dipped. Innovation stalled. Even iconic models like the Duster could not save the brand. The writing was on the wall. By the 1990s, Plymouth was a forgotten middle child, unloved and unnecessary.
The 90s,
in 2001, Chrysler officially pulled the plug. For decades, Plymouth had been a quiet part of the American story, and now it is a footnote. But the memories remain in faded photos, old commercials, and the sound of an engine that will not come back.
Well, it looked like we had something like that.
Final lunch boxes containing lead were every kid's badge of honor. Whether it had Wonder Woman, Star Wars, or a rainbow unicorn on the front, that box said everything about who you were at recess. But while you were showing off your new thermos or trading cookies, your PB&J might have been marinating in something less appetizing: lead. Many of those colorful, flexible vinyl cases were made with lead-based plastic stabilizers, materials that could leach over time, especially under heat. Left in the sun on a bus seat, that lunchbox became a mini toxic oven. Some even had peeling interiors that kids would pick at with fingers destined for mouths. Nobody suspected their sandwich container might be the real health hazard. Years later, testing revealed just how widespread the contamination was, and many were recalled. But by then, millions had used them daily. Schools didn't warn parents, teachers didn't know, and the kids, they just knew lunch was inside. And if the danger wasn't in your lunchbox, it might have been humming in the ceiling above your head. Olympia beer was not flashy. It was not exotic. It was the working man's brew. Born in Washington State and famous for its "It is the water" slogan, Olympia carved out a loyal base across the Pacific Northwest. It tasted like fishing trips, union picnics, and back porch summers. You did not drink it to impress anyone. You drank it because it was yours. But the beer wars were brutal. Big national brands like Budweiser.
I do not drink beer at all. I don't even like alcohol. I don't even drink alcohol, but definitely not a beer. Like, I've tried alcohol before. Beer is alcohol nasty to me too. But beer is disgusting. That is like the nastiest thing they ever invented, yo. I don't see how.
And Miller came swinging with huge ad budgets and coast-to-coast reach. Olympia tried to expand, but its regional charm did not scale well. The further it traveled from the rivers and forests of its home, the more it lost its soul. What made it special could not be bottled and shipped across state lines. It was bought out, reformulated, stripped of its identity. By the 1980s, the writing was on the wall. The original brewery closed. The taste changed, and loyal drinkers quietly moved on. Today, Olympia still exists in name, brewed by a different company in a different place. But those who remember the real thing will tell you, it is not the same. And maybe it never could be. If the 1970s were about loosening up a bit, Bennigan's was the restaurant that caught the vibe.
I remember it. I don't remember eating it, but I just watched it.
Darkwood Panther,
one of these things about
Irish pub decor. It had that
like
just enough
20 lost restaurants that has disappeared. 20 lost restaurants that you won't remember, and Bennigan's was one of them. I don't remember them. They wasn't around and I was growing up in the 90s.
Edgefield to stand out from the family-focused chains. It was not fine dining. It was fun dining.
But I heard it was like
you could grab a beer, order a Monte Cristo sandwich the size of your head, and still bring your kids along for a basket of chicken tenders. Bennigan's knew its lane and drove at full speed. And about that Monte Cristo, deep-fried powdered sugar on top with raspberry jam on the side. It should not have worked. It definitely should not have worked. But somehow, it became their signature dish. Sweet, salty, fried, and just weird enough to keep people talking. Bennigan's also helped bridge that gap between bar food and restaurant food. You could get nachos and onion rings, or a steak and salad, all under one roof. And if you stayed long enough, you might hear the music turn up a little or catch a game on the television in the corner. This was where first dates happened, where co-workers grabbed a drink after clocking out, where birthday dinners and casual Fridays blurred into one. It was pub style done American style, big, bold, and with extra ranch dressing. Bennigan's carved out a place for people who wanted more than fast food, but less than fine dining. And for a lot of us, that middle ground hit just right. Some nights, it was the backyard. Other times, it was the town planetarium where the air smelled like metal seats and carpet glue. But either way, Dad made sure you always looked up. He would point at a blinking light in the sky and say something like, "That one's Venus," even if it was just an airplane. You believed him. Through vinyl with purpose, and where parents hunted for the next hit their kids could play too loud. Away. A chemical cocktail of polybrominated diphenyl ethers, PBDES for short. These compounds were added to fabrics to make them melt instead of burn, which sounds safe. Until you realized the fumes were toxic, the materials didn't breathe, and the chemicals absorbed right through your skin. Studies later linked PBDEs to hormone disruption, developmental delays, and even behavioral issues. And we were wearing them every night. In summer, they clung to sweaty skin like a wet plastic bag. In winter, they sparked with static and held on to every scent in the house. Parents meant well. They were doing what the labels told them. But science eventually caught up, and those pajamas quietly disappeared from store shelves. Today, you'd be hard-pressed to find a kid's outfit with those same flame-retardant additives. But back in the 70s, if it said safe, people trusted it, even if it smelled like melted crayons. And just beyond the back door, an even bigger danger was sprayed on like a blessing. Esprit was not just fashion, it was a feeling. Youthful, bright, alive. The brand captured a moment when clothes were not just about style, but about saying something. About the world, about identity, about freedom. In the 1970s and 1980s, Esprit exploded across America. Their catalogs...
John skipped through something. I could at least say, like some of the food, went through generations.
And then you filled the little books. Carefully, patiently, with the pride of someone building something out of nothing. It was supposed to be the little guy that held the line. In a market dominated by giants like Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, AMC dared to be different. It gave us the Gremlin, the Hornet, and the Pacer, cars that looked like nothing else on the road. But that difference came at a cost. AMC was always scrambling for cash. Its designs were bold, but sometimes too bold. The Pacer was called a fishbowl on wheels. The Gremlin looked like a prank gone too far. And while America was falling in love with fuel efficiency and sleek imports, AMC clung to its oddball identity. It tried to innovate. It partnered with Renault. It launched the Eagle, a car that would inspire the modern SUV. But none of it was enough. The market was cruel. Interest rates climbed. Gas prices jumped. AMC fell behind on everything. Production, marketing, even public opinion. By the time Chrysler bought it out in the late 1980s, it was already a ghost. People do not talk much about AMC now, but they should. Because it tried. It really tried. And in the end, that might be what hurts most. Was a sensory overload. Wooden pens clucked with chickens, bleated with goats, and somewhere a sheep was loudly objecting to...
Yeah, man. Anyway, man, that's an hour right there for that video, man. And it was hour and one, really. Y'all already know, man. If y'all raised in the 70s, let me know. You hear me? Go ahead and end it before that. Hit the hour mark, y'all. You already know, man. Hit that subscribe button. True note.